"Can I play for leftovers?" asked the 7-year-old paralyzed orphan girl. They laughed at her, not knowing she was a piano genius. But when she played, everyone began to cry. Drop your location in the comments so we can connect with you. If this story touches your heart, like and subscribe for more. The winter chill bit through the thin fabric of Lucy's worn coat as she wheeled herself toward the gleaming restaurant on Boston's Newbury Street. 7 years old and already accustomed to the weight of the world on her small shoulders, she pushed her wheelchair forward with determination, her legs useless beneath a faded blanket. The crimson chandelier was packed with wealthy patrons, their laughter spilling onto the sidewalk along with the warm glow of crystal fixtures. "You can't go in there," hissed Mrs. Winters, the orphanage supervisor who reluctantly accompanied her. "We're only here to see if they have kitchen scraps, Lucy. Remember your place." Lucy's blue eyes fixed on the grand piano, visible through the window. "Please," she whispered, "can I play for leftovers?" Mrs. Winters scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. Come along now." But Lucy had already pushed herself through the service entrance, navigating with the skill of someone long accustomed to the world's obstacles. The kitchen staff turned in surprise as the small girl in the wheelchair appeared, her blonde hair neatly braided despite the shabbiness of her clothes. "I can play," she announced, pointing toward the dining room. "I can play the piano for my dinner." The head chef laughed, not unkindly. "Honey, that's a Steinway in there. Professional musicians play that." "I can play," Lucy repeated, her chin lifting with quiet dignity. Inside the dining room, Michael Foster swirled expensive bourbon in a crystal glass, barely listening to the business associates surrounding him. At 30, he was one of Boston's youngest real estate moguls, his success as empty as the mansion he returned to each night. 2 years had passed since Sarah's death, yet every day felt like waking into the same grey fog. The commotion near the kitchen drew his attention. A child in a wheelchair was being escorted back toward the exit, her small face a mask of disappointment. "Can I please play for leftovers?" he heard her ask again, her voice clear and unwavering. Laughter rippled through nearby tables. Michael felt something stir within him, indignation perhaps, or recognition of the fierce pride in those small shoulders. "Let her play." His own voice surprised him. The restaurant manager turned, recognizing him immediately. "Mr. Foster, surely you don't—" "I said let her play." His tone left no room for argument. The manager hesitated, then nodded. "Of course, sir." Lucy's face remained serious as she was wheeled to the magnificent instrument. The diners exchanged amused glances, prepared for an endearing but awkward performance. Lucy positioned her wheelchair, adjusted her height with practiced movements, and placed her small hands on the keys. Then magic happened. The first notes of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major filled the room, played with a sensitivity that silenced every voice. Lucy's eyes closed, her body swaying slightly as her fingers danced across the keyboard with impossible grace. Michael froze, bourbon halfway to his lips. Sarah had loved this piece, had played this piece. As the final notes faded, the restaurant remained suspended in silence. Then applause erupted, hesitant at first, then thunderous. Through the crowd's reaction, Michael and Lucy's eyes met across the room. The wealthy man haunted by loss, and the orphan child who had nothing but the music in her soul. Neither knew it yet, but both their lives had just changed forever. Lucy hadn't always been confined to a wheelchair. Mrs. Winters often reminded her of this fact, as though Lucy might have forgotten the accident 2 years ago that took both her parents and her ability to walk. "You have a roof over your head and food in your belly," Mrs. Winters would say whenever Lucy grew quiet with memory. "Many children have far less." Pinewood Children's Home housed 23 orphans in a drafty Victorian building on Boston's outskirts. Lucy shared a room with 3 other girls, her wheelchair barely fitting between the narrow beds, yet she never complained. Each morning she dressed herself with painstaking effort, refusing assistance. Each night she practiced piano on a paper keyboard she had drawn, her fingers moving in silent determination. The home's actual piano was a decrepit upright in the common room, with 3 broken keys and perpetually sour tuning. Lucy had discovered it 4 months after arriving, when her grief was still raw enough to steal her breath. Mrs. Grady, the kindly weekend cook, had found her touching the keys with reverent fingers. "Did you play before?" Mrs. Grady had asked. Lucy shook her head. "Mama was going to teach me when I turned 6. The words had emerged hollow, empty of the tears she'd already exhausted. Mrs. Grady had shown her a simple melody, shocked when Lucy replayed it perfectly after a single demonstration. After that, Lucy spent every available moment at the instrument, teaching herself with an intuition that bordered on supernatural. Now, the morning after her performance at the Crimson Chandelier, Lucy sat in the orphanage dining hall, picking at rubbery scrambled eggs. The other children whispered and stared. Her impromptu concert had earned her an entire take-out container of restaurant food, which Mrs. Winters had promptly confiscated and distributed among all the children. "Lucy Baker," Mrs. Winters' voice cut through the dining hall chatter. "There's someone here to see you." Curious murmurs followed Lucy as she wheeled herself into the shabby reception area. There stood the man from the restaurant, looking even more imposing in daylight. His camel haircoat probably cost more than everything in the orphanage combined. "Hello, Lucy," he said, crouching to meet her eye level. "My name is Michael Foster." Lucy's hands folded primly in her lap. "Hello, Mr. Foster." "Your playing last night was extraordinary," he said. "Who taught you?" "No one taught me," she answered. "I just hear it in my head, and my fingers know what to do." Michael's expression flickered with something Lucy couldn't identify. "How long have you been playing?" 1 year and 3 months, she replied with precise certainty. "Since they brought me here." Mrs. Winters appeared with a clipboard. "Mr. Foster is interested in our music program, Lucy." Her tone made it clear there was no such program, but appearances mattered with potential donors. "Actually," Michael said, straightening to his full height, "I'd like to arrange for Lucy to audition for Professor Eleanor Williams at the Boston Conservatory. Today, if possible." Mrs. Winter's smile froze. "Mr. Foster, while we appreciate your interest, there are procedures." "I understand," Michael interrupted smoothly. "Perhaps you could direct me to your administrator. I believe my family foundation might be interested in establishing a music scholarship. Lucy could be the first recipient." Lucy watched the calculation play across Mrs. Winter's face, reluctance battling with the prospect of financial contribution. "May I play for you again?" Lucy asked quietly, her eyes meeting Michael's. Something in her direct gaze disarmed him. "I would like that very much." As Lucy led him to the common room piano, she felt a flutter of something unfamiliar, not hope. She had learned to live without that luxury, but purpose, perhaps, a reason to move forward through another day. Neither noticed Mrs. Winters watching from the doorway, her expression troubled as Lucy began to play. Michael Foster lived in a Beacon Hill townhouse that architectural magazines featured, but he rarely occupied. 5 stories of perfect design that echoed with emptiness. As he entered after visiting the orphanage, he loosened his tie and poured himself a drink, though it wasn't yet noon. Sarah's piano dominated the living room, a gleaming Bösendorfer she had selected with rapturous joy. Untouched for 2 years, it remained perfectly tuned, awaiting fingers that would never return. Michael sank onto the bench, set down his glass, and lifted the fullboard. He pressed a key, the single note hanging in the air like a question. The child's playing had awakened something he'd carefully buried alongside his wife. A memory surfaced, Sarah laughing as she played, hair falling forward, her whole body expressing what her fingers created. "You've found another pianist," he said to the empty room. Michael had met Sarah at Juilliard, where she studied piano performance while he pursued business at Columbia. He had attended a student recital to fulfill a humanities credit and left with his world recalibrated. They were married 3 years later, her career blossoming alongside his. The leukemia diagnosis came just after their 5th anniversary. 8 months later, she was gone. He closed the piano and retrieved his phone, scrolling to find Eleanor Williams' number. "Michael Foster," she answered warmly. "It's been too long." "Elle, I need a favor," he said. "There's a child you need to hear play." After arranging the audition, Michael searched online for information about pediatric paralysis rehabilitation. One article led to another, medical terms blurring together as afternoons stretched into evening. He made notes, bookmarked specialists, researched experimental treatments. His executive assistant, Diane, found him still at it the next morning when she arrived with his daily schedule. "Productive night?" she asked, eyeing the coffee cups and rumpled shirt he'd worn yesterday. "I need you to clear my calendar for today," he said, rubbing his eyes, "and contact our foundation director. I want to establish a music scholarship for underprivileged children." Diane raised an eyebrow but asked no questions. In 10 years working for Michael, she'd learned to recognize his rare moments of genuine passion among the calculated business decisions. "Also," he added, "find me everything about adoption and fostering procedures in Massachusetts." At this, Diane's professional composure cracked. "Adoption? Michael, what's going on?" He showed her a video he'd taken on his phone, Lucy playing the orphanage's dilapidated piano, her small body swaying with emotion despite the instrument's limitations. "She's 7, Michael explained. Paralyzed from a car accident that killed her parents 2 years ago. No extended family stepped forward." "She's remarkable," Diane agreed, watching the girl's confident hands. "But Michael, adoption is a major commitment. After everything with Sarah, are you sure?" "I'm not sure of anything," he interrupted. "But when I heard her play Sarah's favorite Chopin piece, something happened." Diane's expression softened. She'd been with him through Sarah's illness, had witnessed his retreat into work afterward. "I'll make the calls," she said simply. Later that afternoon, Michael waited outside Professor Williams's studio at the conservatory. Lucy sat beside him in her wheelchair, wearing a dress Diane had hurriedly purchased that morning. Though brand new, it was age-appropriate and modest enough not to draw uncomfortable attention to their unusual situation. "Are you nervous?" he asked her. Lucy considered this with typical seriousness. "No, the music is already there. I just need to let it out." The simplicity of her response silenced him. Where had this child's wisdom come from? The door opened, and Eleanor Williams gestured them inside. "Lucy Baker," she said, smiling warmly, "I understand you have something to play for me." Michael stepped back, allowing Lucy to wheel herself to the waiting Steinway. As the first notes filled the room, he watched Eleanor's professional composure dissolve into wonder. And in that moment, Michael understood what he needed to do. The Crimson Chandelier's manager personally carried Lucy to the piano bench while Michael folded her wheelchair. 1 week had passed since her conservatory audition, and Professor Williams had insisted she perform again, this time for a select audience of faculty and benefactors. Lucy wore a simple blue dress, her hair adorned with a matching ribbon. Her hands, small but confident, rested in her lap as she surveyed the gathering. Michael had explained the importance of the evening, how these people could help secure her musical education. She understood opportunity when it presented itself. "You'll be magnificent," Michael whispered, adjusting the bench height. Lucy nodded solemnly. In their brief acquaintance, he'd observed how rarely she smiled. Not from unhappiness, he suspected, but from the weight of living in a world not designed for her challenges. Professor Williams stepped forward to address the assembled guests. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Lucy Baker, age 7. She will perform Debussy's Clair de Lune, followed by Mozart's Sonata No. 16 in C major. Skeptical eyebrows rose. The selections were ambitious for any child, particularly one with no formal training. Michael recognized several renowned musicians among the crowd, their expressions politely dubious. Then Lucy began to play. Michael had now heard her several times, yet each performance revealed new depths to her extraordinary gift. She played Debussy with a dreamy fluidity that belied her age, as though the moonlight itself flowed from her fingertips. When she transitioned to Mozart, the technical precision remained, but with a joyful bounce that captured the composer's playful spirit. The audience sat transfixed. Michael watched their expressions transform from professional assessment to genuine awe. When the final notes faded, the applause was immediate and passionate. During the reception that followed, Lucy became the center of attention. Conservatory faculty members knelt beside her wheelchair, asking questions she answered with characteristic directness. Michael observed from a distance, intervening only when he sensed her growing fatigue. "You've found quite a prodigy," remarked Richard Harmon, the conservatory's director, joining Michael by the refreshment table. "Her technique needs refinement, of course, but the raw talent is extraordinary." "She's entirely self-taught," Michael replied. "She's been playing for just over a year." Harmon nearly choked on his drink. "Impossible! No child learns Debussy in a year without training. This one did. And you're what to her exactly?" "I understand she's from Pinewood Children's Home." Michael hesitated. "For now, I'm facilitating her access to proper instruction. My family foundation is establishing a scholarship." "Admirable," Harmon nodded, "though a child with her gift needs more than occasional lessons. She needs immersion, daily practice on quality instruments, exposure to performances." "I'm exploring options," Michael said carefully. Across the room, Lucy was speaking with Eleanor Williams, her serious expression momentarily softening into something approaching happiness. The transformation, subtle though it was, caught Michael's breath. She looked briefly, like any 7-year-old excited about something she loved. Later, as they drove back to the orphanage, Lucy sat quietly in the specially equipped car Michael had recently purchased. "Professor Williams says I need to learn music theory," she finally said, "and practice scales, lots of scales." "You don't sound thrilled about that part," Michael observed, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "The scales are like vegetables," Lucy replied thoughtfully. "Not as good as cake, but necessary to grow strong." Michael chuckled, the first genuine laugh he'd experienced in months. "That's an excellent way to look at it." "Mr. Foster?" Lucy's voice had turned hesitant. "Why are you helping me?" The question, direct and perceptive, deserved honesty. Michael considered his response carefully. "Music matters to me," he said finally, "and talent like yours deserves nurturing." Lucy studied him with eyes too perceptive for her age. "Your wife played piano," she stated, rather than asked. Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Yes, how did you know?" "You watch me the way I used to watch my mother cook. Like you're remembering someone else doing the same thing." They drove in silence for several minutes, the city lights sliding over them. "Lucy," Michael said finally, "how would you feel about coming to live with me? Not permanently at first, just weekends perhaps, so you could practice on a proper piano." He waited for her response, suddenly nervous in a way business negotiations never made him feel. "I would like that very much," she replied, her small voice filled with quiet dignity. "Absolutely not." Mrs. Parsons, Pinewood's director, clasped her hands on the desk between them. "Weekend homestays require extensive background checks, home evaluations, and a minimum 6-month relationship." Michael maintained his professional composure despite his frustration. "I understand the protocols exist for children's protection." I've submitted all required documentation and am willing to expedite the process at my expense. Mr. Foster, Mrs. Parsons sighed. While we appreciate your interest in Lucy's musical development, and certainly your foundation's generous scholarship offer, there are procedures we cannot circumvent, not even for someone of your influence. Michael recognized the implication that he expected rules to bend for his wealth. It stung precisely because there was truth to it. In business, his resources typically cleared obstacles. I apologize if I've given that impression, he said carefully. My concern is solely for Lucy's opportunity. Professor Williams believes structured daily practice is crucial at this developmental stage. Mrs. Parsons softened slightly. Lucy is a remarkable child. Her resilience after her tragedy has impressed all of us, but attachment to temporary figures can be damaging to orphan children. What if I'm not temporary? The words escaped before Michael could consider their full implication. Mrs. Parsons studied him carefully. Are you expressing interest in becoming her foster parent? Michael's heartbeat quickened. The question articulated something he hadn't fully acknowledged to himself. I'm exploring all options that would serve her best interests. Foster placement requires even more rigorous evaluation, she explained. Single male applicants face particular scrutiny, regardless of financial status. I understand, Michael nodded. Please tell me what I need to do. As Michael left the administration building, he spotted Lucy in the orphanage's small yard, watching other children play from her wheelchair. Her isolation was physical, but seemed deeper than her paralysis, a separation born from difference beyond her mobility. She noticed him and wheeled herself over, her expression brightening subtly. Professor Williams gave me homework, she told him, holding up sheet music with penciled notations. May I see? He crouched beside her wheelchair. Lucy showed him where Eleanor had marked fingering suggestions and dynamics. It's like a secret code inside the music, she explained, like the composer left clues about how it should sound. Michael found himself smiling at her seriousness. That's exactly right. When your technique is strong enough, you can sometimes choose to ignore those clues. But first, you have to understand them. Lucy considered this with characteristic thoughtfulness. Like breaking rules when you understand why they exist. You're a very wise 7-year-old, Lucy Baker. She shook her head. Not wise. Just used to watching and listening. Michael hesitated, then spoke carefully. Lucy, I've spoken with Mrs. Parsons about the possibility of you coming to stay with me. Not just for music practice, but as a more permanent arrangement. You want to adopt me? Her directness was startling. Foster placement would be the first step, he explained. It takes time and evaluation. Would that be something you'd want? Lucy looked down at her useless legs. People don't usually want children who are broken. The simple statement, delivered without self-pity, cut through Michael's careful professional demeanor. Lucy, you are many extraordinary things, but broken is not one of them. My body doesn't work right, she stated factually. Neither does my coffee maker half the time, Michael replied. Doesn't make it less valuable. This unexpected comparison produced something miraculous. Lucy smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her solemn face into that of a regular 7-year-old girl. I would like to live where there's a real piano, she said finally, and where I don't have to share a room with Bethany Palmer, who snores. Michael laughed. I can definitely promise both those things. As they discussed her upcoming lesson schedule, neither noticed Mrs. Winters watching from a window, her expression calculating as she observed their easy rapport. Michael's world shifted from real estate development to form completion with dizzying speed. Home inspection appointments, interviews with social workers, background checks, financial disclosures. The fostering process consumed his schedule. Diane reorganized his calendar, delegated projects, and hired a contractor to make his townhouse wheelchair accessible. "The inspection is tomorrow," she reminded him, watching him review the home study questionnaire. "Are you sure about this, Michael? It's been 2 years since Sarah." "I'm sure," he interrupted, then softened his tone. "I know it seems sudden. Maybe it is. But when I hear Lucy play—" He struggled to articulate the complex emotions the child's music evoked. "It's like finding something I didn't realize I'd lost." "You can support her career without becoming her guardian," Diane pointed out gently. "It's not about her career," Michael replied. "It's about her." Before Diane could respond, his phone rang. Pinewood Children's Home, displaying on the screen. His stomach tightened as he answered. "Mr. Foster!" Mrs. Parsons' voice was strained. "There's been an incident involving Lucy. She's at Boston Children's Hospital." Michael's world narrowed to a pinpoint of panic. "What happened? Is she all right?" "She fell during a transfer from her wheelchair. They're concerned about potential trauma to her spine." "I'm on my way." Michael broke speed limits reaching the hospital, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. As a wheelchair user, Lucy was already well acquainted with hospitals and medical procedures. What must she be feeling now? Was anyone holding her hand? The pediatric emergency department directed him to a treatment room, where he found Lucy lying flat on an examination table, her face pale but composed. "Lucy," he breathed, moving to her side. "Are you all right?" "They say I need to be still until the doctor sees the pictures of my back," she explained calmly. Mrs. Winters had to return to the orphanage with the van. Michael's jaw clenched at the realization she'd been left alone. "I'm here now. I won't leave." Relief flickered across her face, a momentary crack in her practiced stoicism. "The doctor said it's probably just bruising, but they're being careful because of my previous spinal injury." A physician entered, introducing herself as Dr. Reynolds. She explained that Lucy's scans showed no additional damage to her spine, just bruising and minor abrasions. "She was lucky," Dr. Reynolds concluded. "Given her medical history, any fall is concerning." "May I ask what happened?" Lucy's eyes lowered. "I was trying to reach my music on the high shelf. My wheelchair tipped." Michael frowned. "Why was your music on a high shelf?" Lucy remained silent, her lips pressing together. Dr. Reynolds gave Michael a meaningful look. "Lucy, I need to check your chart. I'll be back in a few minutes." When they were alone, Michael pulled a chair beside Lucy's bed. "Please tell me what really happened." Lucy's composure wavered. "Bethany and some others said I get special treatment because I can't walk. They put my music where I couldn't reach it." "Did Mrs. Winters know this happened?" Lucy's silence was answer enough. When Dr. Reynolds returned, Michael stepped into the hallway with her. "As her potential foster parent," he said quietly, "I'm concerned about supervision at Pinewood. This incident suggests inadequate oversight." The doctor hesitated. "Medical professionals are mandated reporters, Mr. Foster. If there's suspected neglect—" "I'm not suggesting filing a report yet," Michael clarified, "but I would like documentation of this incident for Lucy's fostering case." By evening, Lucy was cleared to return to Pinewood. Michael insisted on driving her himself, using the opportunity to call his attorney from the car's Bluetooth, while Lucy dozed in the back seat. "I want to expedite the fostering process," he explained. "Today's incident demonstrates she's not receiving appropriate care." "Michael," his attorney cautioned, "family court moves at its own pace. Rushing appears self-serving rather than child-focused. There's got to be something. Let me make some inquiries about emergency placement. No promises." At Pinewood, Michael carried Lucy inside, despite Mrs. Winters' insistence it wasn't necessary. As he settled her into her bed, he noticed the barrenness of her personal space. No toys, no pictures, just neatly folded clothes and a stack of music. "I'll be back tomorrow," he promised, "and we'll have your lesson, as scheduled." Lucy nodded, fatigue evident in her face. Then, surprising them both, she reached for his hand. "Thank you for coming to the hospital," she whispered. Michael felt something shift within his chest, a protective fierceness he hadn't experienced before. "Always," he replied, meaning it completely. As he left the building, his resolve crystallized. Lucy wouldn't spend one more day in this place than absolutely necessary. Whatever it took, he would bring her home. Morning light filtered through Michael's study as he examined the emergency placement petition his attorney had prepared. 3 weeks had passed since Lucy's accident, and the normal fostering process was moving with bureaucratic lethargy. "This filing is aggressive," his attorney warned via speakerphone. "Judge Calloway may see it as an attempt to circumvent standard procedures." "It's not circumvention," Michael countered, signing the document. "It's addressing an urgent situation. Lucy's physical safety is at risk. The opposition will argue your wealth is influencing the process. Let them. I can provide what she needs: medical care, education, stability. Her gift is withering in that place." After his attorney departed with the signed petition, Michael stood before Sarah's piano. He'd begun playing again, simple pieces from his college days, his technique rusty but returning. The house no longer felt haunted by silence. His phone chimed with an email from Eleanor Williams. The subject line, "Carnegie Hall Young Artists Program," made his heart race. "Lucy's audition recording has been accepted," Eleanor wrote. "If selected as a finalist, she'll perform in New York this December." Michael smiled, already reaching for his phone to share the news, when Diane appeared in the doorway. "There's someone here to see you," she said, her expression troubled. "From Pinewood. A Mrs. Winters?" Michael's smile vanished. "Show her in." Mrs. Winters entered with practiced refinement, her sharp eyes taking inventory of the room's obvious wealth. "Mr. Foster," she began, declining his offer to sit, "I'm here about Lucy." "Has something happened?" Alarm sharpened his voice. "Not exactly. It's come to our attention that you're pursuing emergency placement. I thought we might discuss alternatives." Michael's instincts, honed through years of business negotiations, sensed the undercurrent. "Alternatives?" "Pinewood struggles with limited resources," she explained. "Your foundation's generosity has been noted. Perhaps a more substantial contribution might help address the concerns cited in your petition." The implication crystallized with nauseating clarity. "Are you suggesting I donate money instead of pursuing Lucy's placement?" Mrs. Winters smiled thinly. "I'm suggesting there are multiple ways to support Lucy's well-being and Pinewood's mission simultaneously." "I see." Michael maintained his composure with effort. "And does Mrs. Parsons know you're here making this suggestion?" Uncertainty flickered across her face. "I'm acting in Pinewood's best interests. Please leave my home." His tone left no room for discussion. After showing her out, Michael immediately called his attorney. "Record every interaction with Pinewood staff going forward," he instructed. Mrs. Winters just attempted something dangerously close to extortion. That afternoon, Michael arrived at Pinewood for Lucy's scheduled piano lesson. She was waiting in the common room, her small suitcase packed beside her wheelchair. "Is something happening?" he asked, noting her readiness. "Mrs. Winters said I should be prepared," Lucy explained. "She said a judge will decide if I can live with you." Michael crouched to meet her eyes. "The hearing is tomorrow. How do you feel about it?" Lucy considered the question with characteristic seriousness. "Scared, but also hopeful. Is that wrong?" "Not wrong at all." He hesitated, then added, "Lucy, did Mrs. Winters say anything else to you?" "About money, perhaps?" Lucy nodded. "She said Pinewood needed donations, and you might give more if they fought harder to keep me." Michael's jaw tightened. "Thank you for telling me the truth. Now, shall we have your lesson?" As Lucy played, Michael made a silent promise. Whatever happened in tomorrow's hearing, Lucy would never return to Pinewood. The juvenile court waiting area smelled of industrial cleaner and anxiety. Lucy sat beside Michael in her wheelchair, wearing a new navy dress, her blonde hair neatly braided. Though her expression remained composed, her fingers occasionally tapped against her armrest, playing invisible piano keys. "It helps me stay calm," she explained when she caught Michael watching. "I play music in my head." Michael smiled. Sarah did the same thing. It was the first time he'd spoken his wife's name aloud to Lucy. "Your wife," Lucy nodded. "Will you tell me about her someday?" "I will," Michael promised, surprised by how the prospect didn't fill him with dread. "She would have adored your playing." Their attorney, Patricia Diaz, approached with determined strides. "Judge Calloway is ready. Remember what we discussed. Let me address any challenges from Pinewood's counsel." The courtroom felt cavernous to Lucy's small presence. Michael noticed how she straightened in her wheelchair, maintaining the dignity that had first caught his attention at the crimson chandelier. Judge Calloway, a silver-haired woman with penetrating eyes, reviewed the documents before her. "This is an unusual petition," she began. "Emergency placement is typically reserved for situations of imminent danger." Patricia Diaz presented their case methodically. The accident report, doctor. Reynolds' medical assessment, testimonials from Professor Williams about Lucy's exceptional talent and need for consistent training. Pinewood's attorney emphasized the organization's long history of child care and the importance of standard procedures. Mrs. Parsons testified about Pinewood's commitment to children's welfare, though she appeared uncomfortable when questioned about Mrs. Winters's supervisory practices. When it was Lucy's turn to speak privately with the judge, Michael waited outside, his anxiety mounting with each passing minute. Inside chambers, Lucy sat before Judge Calloway's desk, hands folded in her lap. "Lucy," the judge began gently, "I'd like to understand how you feel about possibly living with Mr. Foster." "He has a real piano," Lucy replied, "and he understands music. Is that the only reason you want this placement?" Lucy considered the question carefully. "No, he sees me." "What do you mean by that?" "Most people see my wheelchair first, or they see a sad story, the orphan who can't walk. Mr. Foster sees me playing. He gets angry when people aren't fair, even when I'm used to it." Judge Calloway nodded. "And you feel safe with him?" "Yes." Lucy's certainty was unwavering. "He came to the hospital right away. He didn't have to do that. Has anyone at Pinewood suggested you shouldn't go with Mr. Foster, or that you should say particular things about your care there?" Lucy hesitated, then said, "Mrs. Winters told me to remember that Pinewood gave me a home when nobody wanted me." The judge's expression revealed nothing, but she made a note. "Thank you for your honesty, Lucy." When court reconvened, Judge Calloway's decision was swift and definitive. "I'm granting the emergency placement petition for a 90-day period, during which standard home studies and evaluations will continue." She looked directly at Michael. "Mr. Foster, this court places Lucy Baker in your care, with the understanding that her medical and educational needs will be your priority." "They will be, Your Honor," Michael assured her. As they left the courthouse, Lucy remained quiet, processing the change in her circumstances. Only when they reached Michael's car did she speak. "Is it really happening? I'm coming home with you?" The word home caught in Michael's chest. "Yes, starting today." For the second time in their acquaintance, Lucy smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her solemn face. "I have something for you," Michael said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He handed her a small velvet box. Lucy opened it carefully to reveal a silver charm bracelet with a single charm, a miniature piano. "It's beautiful," she whispered, running her finger over the tiny instrument. "Sarah collected charms for special moments," Michael explained as he fastened it around her wrist. "I thought maybe you could do the same." Igum. As they drove toward Beacon Hill, toward home, Lucy kept touching the piano charm, a tangible symbol of her new beginning. Autumn painted Boston's trees in brilliant colors as Lucy settled into life at Michael's townhouse. Her bedroom, converted from a guest room on the first floor, featured pale blue walls, a bookshelf filled with music theory texts and age-appropriate literature, and a window seat overlooking the small garden. Each morning, physical therapist Jasmine Rodriguez came for Lucy's rehabilitation sessions. "There's potential for improved mobility," she'd explained during their first meeting. "Lucy's spinal injury wasn't complete, and she's young enough that neuroplasticity is on her side." Lucy approached physical therapy with the same disciplined focus she gave to piano, practicing exercises diligently, pushing through discomfort without complaint. The first time she moved her big toe voluntarily, Michael had celebrated by taking her for ice cream at J.P. Lick's. "It's just a toe," Lucy had protested, though her eyes shone with quiet pride. "Every journey begins with a single step," Michael replied, "or in this case, a single toe wiggle." October brought Lucy's Carnegie Hall audition recording session. Michael had hired Boston's finest recording engineer to capture her performance on Sarah's Bösendorfer. Professor Williams selected the program: Bach's Prelude in C major and a Chopin waltz, pieces that showcased both technical precision and emotional sensitivity. Lucy, now 8, after a quiet birthday celebration the previous week, approached the recording with characteristic seriousness. "Remember," Professor Williams advised, "play as if you're telling a story to someone you love." Lucy nodded, positioned her hands, and began. The Bach flowed with crystalline clarity, each note perfectly placed yet never mechanical. When she transitioned to Chopin, something magical happened. Her body, so constrained in daily life, found freedom through her fingers. The waltz danced with a joyful lilt that brought tears to Professor Williams' eyes. "Extraordinary," the recording engineer whispered to Michael. "I've recorded professional pianists who don't play with that much heart." The following Saturday brought another milestone. Michael had enrolled Lucy in the conservatory's weekend program for gifted children, and today marked her first group class. As they approached the building, Lucy's hands gripped her wheelchair armrests tightly. "Nervous?" Michael asked. "What if they only see the chair?" Her voice was barely audible. "Then they're missing the most important part," he replied. "But give them a chance. Musicians tend to care more about what your hands can do than what your legs can't." Lucy's class consisted of 8 children ranging from 7 to 10 years old. Professor Williams had prepared them for Lucy's arrival, emphasizing her exceptional talent rather than her disability. Still, the initial awkwardness was palpable as the children glanced curiously at her wheelchair. Then Lucy played. The atmosphere transformed instantly. The other children gathered around the piano, watching her hands with undisguised admiration. During the break, a boy named Tyler approached. "That was awesome," he said. "Can you teach me that left-hand pattern?" By session's end, Lucy had been fully accepted into their musical community. As they drove home, Michael noticed a new lightness in her demeanor. "I'm going to need more practice time," she announced. "Tyler's been playing since he was 4, and Emma already knows all her scales." Michael chuckled. "Competitive, are we?" "Not competitive," she corrected thoughtfully. "Inspired." That evening, Michael received an email from the Carnegie Hall Selection Committee. Lucy had been chosen as a finalist. They would travel to New York in December for the live audition. He found her at the piano, working through a difficult passage, her focus absolute. "Lucy," he said, waiting for her to finish before sharing the news. "You've been selected for Carnegie Hall." She absorbed this information with characteristic calm, though her eyes widened slightly. "Will you come with me?" "Wild horses couldn't keep me away." He sat beside her on the bench. "I'm proud of you, Lucy. Not just for this achievement, but for how hard you work every day." She leaned against his shoulder, a rare gesture of physical affection. "I like living here," she said simply. As November arrived, bringing early snow flurries, their caseworker conducted the 90-day placement evaluation. Michael had prepared meticulously, documenting Lucy's schedule, medical appointments, academic progress, and musical development. "She's thriving," the caseworker noted, watching Lucy practice. "I'll recommend the placement continue toward potential permanency." Though Michael maintained his professional demeanor during the meeting, relief flooded through him afterward. The thought of Lucy returning to Pinewood had become unthinkable. That night, as he tucked Lucy into bed, she asked a question that had clearly been on her mind. What happens after the 90 days? Michael chose his words carefully. "If all goes well, we discuss more permanent arrangements. Would you like that?" Lucy nodded, clutching the piano charm on her bracelet. "I'd like to stay here, with you." "Then that's what we'll work toward," Michael promised. "One day at a time." The Metropolitan Suite at the Plaza Hotel offered a stunning view of Central Park, its trees decorated with holiday lights. Lucy pressed her hand against the window, watching snowflakes swirl in the December air. "It looks like a snow globe," she whispered, her breath fogging the glass. Michael smiled, hanging her performance dress in the closet. Tomorrow she would play at Carnegie Hall, not in the main auditorium, but in the Weil Recital Hall, still a prestigious venue where luminaries like Vladimir Horowitz and Yo-Yo Ma had performed. "How are you feeling about tomorrow?" he asked, sitting on the sofa beside her wheelchair. "Scared," Lucy admitted. "What if I make a mistake?" "Then you'll recover and continue," Michael replied. "Even the greatest pianists make mistakes. The difference is they don't let one wrong note derail the entire performance." Lucy considered this. "Like how one bad day doesn't ruin your whole life." Michael felt the familiar amazement at her wisdom. "Exactly like that." They spent the evening quietly, Lucy reviewing her music while Michael handled emails. Around 9, his phone rang, Eleanor Williams calling from Boston. "Just checking in," she said. "How's our young virtuoso?" "Focused," Michael replied, stepping onto the balcony to speak privately. "And a bit nervous, though she's handling it well." "She'll be magnificent," Eleanor assured him. "Oh, and Michael, there's something you should know. Judith Winters is in New York." Michael's grip tightened on the phone. "Why?" "Apparently Pinewood is claiming partial credit for discovering Lucy's talent. They've sent Mrs. Winters to represent them at tomorrow's performance." Michael suppressed his anger, aware of Lucy watching him through the window. "Thank you for the warning. We'll handle it." The next morning brought perfect winter weather, crisp and clear with lingering snow. Lucy woke early, practicing finger exercises while still in bed. "My hands feel cold," she said as Michael helped her into her wheelchair. "Nerves," he explained, gently massaging her small fingers. Sarah always ran her hands under warm water before performances. Lucy nodded, filing away this piece of information about the woman whose piano she now played daily. At Carnegie Hall, they were directed to a warm-up room. Lucy wore a simple emerald green dress with her charm bracelet, now holding 3 charms. The piano, a tiny silver wheelchair symbolizing her first physical therapy breakthrough, and a miniature Statue of Liberty for this New York trip. As she practiced, Michael stepped into the hallway to speak with Professor Williams, who had traveled down for the performance. They were discussing Lucy's recent progress when he spotted Mrs. Winters approaching, her smile as artificial as the poinsettia on her lapel. "Mr. Foster, how lovely to see you," her tone suggested the opposite. I've come to support our Pinewood Prodigy." Before Michael could respond, Lucy's caseworker, Marianne Chen, joined them, having travelled from Boston as an observer. "Mrs. Winters," she greeted coolly. "I wasn't aware Pinewood had any ongoing involvement with Lucy's musical education." Mrs. Winters' smile tightened. "Pinewood provided Lucy's first piano access. We're simply here to celebrate her achievement." "How thoughtful," Marianne replied, her tone making clear she recognized the ulterior motive. "Though I'm sure you're aware that approaching Lucy requires Mr. Foster's permission as her legal guardian." The reminder of Michael's legal status visibly irritated Mrs. Winters, but further conversation was interrupted by the announcement that performances would begin in 15 minutes. Lucy played fourth among 8 finalists. Michael sat in the front row, heart pounding, as she was wheeled to the gleaming Steinway. The audience quieted as she positioned herself, took a deep breath and began. Bach's prelude flowed from her fingers with pristine clarity, each note perfectly articulated. Then came Chopin, played with the emotional maturity that belied her 8 years. But it was her final piece, Debussy's Reverie, that truly showcased her gift. Lucy didn't simply play the notes. She created a dreamscape, inviting listeners into a world of shimmering beauty. When she finished, the audience erupted in applause. Michael caught her eye and nodded, a silent message of pride that brought a rare smile to her serious face. Later, at the reception, Lucy was surrounded by admirers. Faculty from Juilliard, representatives from recording companies, parents of other contestants. Michael stayed close, monitoring her energy level and ensuring she wasn't overwhelmed. A distinguished grey-haired man approached, introducing himself as David Lockhart, director of the National Young Artists Foundation. "Remarkable performance, young lady," he said, addressing Lucy directly rather than speaking over her to Michael. A courtesy she visibly appreciated. "Thank you, sir," she replied politely. "We offer scholarships for exceptional talents," he continued. "I'd very much like to discuss possibilities for your continued education." As they conversed, Michael noticed Mrs. Winters watching from across the room, her expression calculating. The winners wouldn't be announced until tomorrow, but Lucy's reception by the musical community spoke volumes. That evening, back at the hotel, Lucy was quiet, processing the day's events. "You were magnificent," Michael told her as he helped her transfer from wheelchair to bed. "No matter what they announce tomorrow, you should be incredibly proud." Lucy's serious eyes met his. "I felt her today," she said softly. "Who?" "Sarah. When I was playing the Debussy, it felt like someone else was helping guide my fingers. Is that strange?" Michael's throat tightened with emotion. "Not strange at all. Music connects us across all sorts of boundaries." Lucy nodded, satisfied with this explanation. "I think she would have liked me," she said with childlike certainty. "She would have loved you," Michael corrected gently. "Almost as much as I do." The words emerged naturally, surprising them both. Lucy's eyes widened, then softened with understanding beyond her years. "I love you too," she replied simply. Spring sunshine warmed Boston Common as Lucy guided her wheelchair along the path, Michael walking beside her. 6 months had passed since the Carnegie Hall competition, where Lucy had placed second, an extraordinary achievement that led to a feature in the Boston Globe and scholarship offers from several prestigious music programs. "I still think I should try the manual chair more often," Lucy said, gesturing toward the lightweight wheelchair secured in the back of Michael's SUV. Physical therapy had progressed remarkably, with Lucy now able to move her legs slightly and stand for brief periods with support. "Dr. Reynolds said to alternate," Michael reminded her. "The electric chair prevents fatigue, so you can conserve energy for therapy and piano." Lucy sighed with mock exasperation. "You worry too much." "Occupational hazard of parenthood," he replied lightly. The word hung between them, significant but comfortable. The courts had granted Michael permanent guardianship 3 months ago, with adoption proceedings now underway. Lucy had taken to calling him Michael rather than Mr. Foster, but neither had yet used the terms father or daughter, a boundary they approached cautiously. They reached the Frog Pond, where children sailed model boats across the water. Lucy watched with interest, but made no move to join, still hesitant in purely recreational settings where her wheelchair made her conspicuous. "Would you like to try?" Michael asked, nodding toward the boat rental kiosk. Lucy considered this, then nodded with determination. "Yes, please." As Michael secured a bright blue sailboat, Lucy noticed a young girl watching her wheelchair with undisguised curiosity. "Why can't you walk?" the child asked bluntly. Before Lucy could respond, the girl's mother appeared, flustered. "Emma, we don't ask questions like that." "It's okay," Lucy assured them. "I was in a car accident when I was 5. My legs got hurt, but they're getting stronger with exercises." "Cool," Emma decided. "Want to race boats?" The simple acceptance broke through Lucy's reserve. Soon she was laughing as her sailboat collided with Emma's, their competition drawing smiles from nearby adults. Watching from the shore, Michael felt a familiar presence beside him. "She's doing remarkably well," Eleanor Williams observed, having arrived for their scheduled meeting. "Both musically and personally." Michael nodded. "The adoption hearing is next month. After that, I'm considering the spinal surgery Dr. Maxwell suggested. Recovery would be intense, but it might help her regain more function. And the Juilliard pre-college program offer, have you decided?" "We're leaning toward accepting, with modifications. Weekend commuting to New York is feasible with my pilot's license." Their discussion continued as they watched Lucy navigate social interaction with increasing confidence. When the boats were returned and goodbyes exchanged, Lucy rejoined them, cheeks flushed with excitement. "I see you made a friend," Eleanor smiled. "Emma's starting piano lessons next week," Lucy reported. "I told her about practicing scales first." Later that evening, after Eleanor departed and Lucy completed her practice session, they shared dinner in the kitchen, a routine that had developed naturally over the past months. "Michael," Lucy began hesitantly, "when the adoption is final, will my name change?" He set down his fork, giving the question his full attention. "It can, if you'd like. You could become Lucy Foster or Keep Baker, or hyphenate them." Lucy considered this with characteristic seriousness. "What about my middle name? It's Marie, after my mother." "That would absolutely stay," Michael assured her. "We don't erase the past when we build something new." Lucy nodded, satisfied. "Lucy Marie Baker Foster," she tested the sound. "It's long, but I like how it honors everyone." "Perfect," Michael agreed, his heart full. After dinner, as Lucy practiced her current repertoire, a challenging Beethoven sonata, Michael reviewed architectural plans for her music studio. The renovation would convert part of the garden level into a performance space with perfect acoustics, allowing Lucy to give small recitals and masterclasses as her reputation grew. The doorbell interrupted Lucy's playing. Michael answered to find Mrs. Parsons from Pinewood on his doorstep, her expression grave. "Mr. Foster," she began formally, "I apologize for coming unannounced, but it's important." Michael invited her in, curious and cautious. In the months since Lucy's placement, Pinewood had maintained minimal contact, especially after Mrs. Winter's departure following a financial audit that revealed concerning discrepancies. "It's about Lucy's family," Mrs. Parsons explained once they were seated in the study, Lucy continuing her practice unaware. "A maternal aunt has come forward. She's been searching for Lucy and only recently discovered her whereabouts through the Carnegie Hall publicity." Michael's world tilted dangerously. Lucy's records indicated no living relatives willing to claim guardianship. This aunt was overseas with military deployment when the accident occurred. She claims she never received notification about her sister's death or Lucy's orphaned status. And she's seeking custody? Michael asked, his voice carefully controlled. Mrs. Parsons nodded. She's filed a petition with family court. I came personally because I believe you and Lucy deserve direct communication, given past interactions with Pinewood. The gesture of respect wasn't lost on Michael. Thank you. When is the hearing? 2 weeks. I've brought copies of the documentation. She hesitated, then added, For what it's worth, Mr. Foster, anyone can see Lucy is thriving in your care. I hope the court recognizes that. After Mrs. Parsons departed, Michael stood frozen in the foyer, documents clutched in his hand. From the living room came the sound of Lucy playing, her music conveying a joy and security she'd fought hard to achieve. He couldn't bear to disrupt that peace tonight. Tomorrow would be soon enough for their world to change again. Summer heat shimmered above the courthouse steps as Michael helped Lucy from the car. Today's hearing would determine their future, whether they would continue as the family they'd become, or whether Lucy would begin again with Catherine Baker, the aunt she'd met just once during a supervised visit 2 weeks ago. You're very quiet, Lucy observed as they entered the building. Michael managed a smile, just thinking. In truth, he was fighting dual instincts, the fierce desire to keep the child he'd come to love as his daughter, and the painful recognition that Lucy deserved connection with her biological family. Catherine Baker waited inside, a tall woman in military dress uniform, her resemblance to Lucy striking in the shape of their eyes and serious expressions. She nodded respectfully to Michael before the attorneys directed everyone to separate preparation rooms. In the private conference room, Michael knelt before Lucy's wheelchair. No matter what happens today, he said gently, I want you to know something important. Meeting you has been the greatest gift of my life. Lucy's eyes searched his face. You sound like you're saying goodbye. Never that, he promised. Whatever the judge decides, you will never lose me. When court convened, Judge Calloway, the same judge who had granted the emergency placement, presided. She reviewed the facts methodically. Catherine Baker had been deployed in Afghanistan when her sister died. Communication failures had prevented proper notification. Upon learning of Lucy's existence through news coverage, she had immediately sought family reunification. Catherine testified with military precision about her plan to provide for Lucy, the accessible home she'd purchased, the music school near her base in Virginia, her commitment to continuing Lucy's treatments and education. Michael presented evidence of Lucy's extraordinary progress under his care, medical reports showing improved mobility, academic assessments demonstrating accelerated learning, testimonials from musical professionals about her flourishing talent. When Lucy's turn came to speak privately with the judge, she wheeled herself into chambers with the independence she'd developed over the past year. This must be confusing for you, Judge Calloway began kindly. Yes, ma'am, Lucy agreed, but also not confusing. What do you mean? Lucy's hands folded in her lap, fingers tracing the charms on her bracelet. My aunt seems nice. She has my mother's smile. But, the judge prompted. Michael is my family now, Lucy said with quiet certainty. He doesn't just take care of me. He sees who I really am and who I could become. Your aunt wants to know you, to be part of your life. Lucy nodded thoughtfully. I want that too. But changing everything again. She hesitated, struggling to articulate complex emotions. Take your time, Judge Calloway encouraged. When I first went to live with Michael, I was afraid to hope it would last, Lucy explained. Now I have music and friends and plans for the future. I can stand a little bit, and next year I might try crutches. Everything good in my life happened because Michael believed in me. The judge made notes, then asked, if you could design the perfect solution, what would it look like? Lucy's answer came without hesitation. I would stay with Michael, but my aunt would visit often. Maybe I could spend some school breaks with her when it wouldn't interrupt my piano studies. When court reconvened, tension filled the room. Michael and Catherine sat at separate tables, both visibly stressed yet committed to composure for Lucy's sake. Judge Calloway delivered her ruling with measured clarity. Family reunification is this court's priority whenever possible, she began. However, the child's best interests must remain paramount. Michael held his breath, preparing for heartbreak. After careful consideration of all factors, the established bond between Mr. Foster and Lucy, the child's extraordinary progress in his care, the stability of her current environment, balanced against Ms. Baker's biological connection and sincere commitment to her niece's welfare. This court rules as follows. The pause seemed eternal. Primary custody will remain with Michael Foster, with the adoption approved to proceed. However, Catherine Baker is granted liberal visitation rights, including holiday and summer visits, structured around Lucy's medical and educational requirements. Relief washed through Michael, tempered with empathy as he saw Catherine's controlled disappointment. This arrangement, the judge continued, will provide Lucy with the stability she needs while honoring her family connections. Both parties are encouraged to foster cooperation and communication in Lucy's best interest. As they left the courthouse, Catherine approached them. "Mr. Foster," she said formally, "I respect the court's decision. While not what I hoped for, I recognize that Lucy has thrived in your care." "Thank you," Michael replied, "and please know you're welcome in our home any time. Lucy deserves to know her mother's family." Catherine knelt to Lucy's level. "I have your mother's photo albums," she said softly, "and stories from when we were girls. Whenever you're ready, I'd love to share them." "I'd like that," Lucy answered, her hand instinctively reaching for Michael's. That evening, Michael and Lucy celebrated with a small gathering at home. Eleanor Williams, Dr. Reynolds, Jasmine the physical therapist, and Tyler from Lucy's music class all came to share their joy. After the guests departed, Lucy played a piece she'd been composing, a melody that began with solemn, questioning notes, but resolved into something hopeful and bright. "Does it have a title?" Michael asked when she finished. "Finding Home," Lucy replied. "Do you like it?" "It's beautiful," he said truthfully, "just like its composer." Lucy smiled, no longer the rare expression it had once been. "Did you mean what you said in court? About me being your daughter in your heart, even before the papers say so?" "Every word." Lucy reached for his hand, her eyes serious but peaceful. "I have something for you." She presented a small box wrapped in simple blue paper. Inside, Michael found a silver keychain with a single charm, a tiny replica of the restaurant where they'd first met. "Since I can't play leftovers anymore," Lucy explained with unexpected humor, "I thought you should have a reminder of where our story began." Michael gathered her into a gentle hug, marveling at how this extraordinary child had healed his broken heart by allowing him to help heal hers. Outside, twilight settled over Boston. Inside, at the piano that had once been silent with grief, a child played a melody of hope while her father listened, both finally home.